Good day everyone! Once again, welcome to my channel. Ngayon naman ang ating pag-uusapan is all about ellipse and its characteristics. Kapag sinabing ellipse, it is a set of all coplanar points such that the sum of its distances from two fixed points is constant. And the fixed points are called the foci of the ellipse. Ano ang itsura niya? Ito, isang pahalang at isang patayo. One is in horizontal form and the other is in vertical form. According to the definition, the sum of its distances from two fixed points is a constant. Ano bang ibig sabihin nun? Once na inad natin ang distance nitong focus 1 at saka yung distance nitong focus 2 to any point of this ellipse, ibig sabihin yan, iisa lang ang magiging kasagutan. Kaya nga, sabi doon, the sum of its distances from two fixed points is constant. An ellipse has two axes of symmetry. Each of these axes is important when dealing with ellipse. The longer axis is called the major axis, and the shorter axis is called the minor axis. As you can see, dito sa ating figure, yung segment na nag-pass through dun sa focus 1 and focus 2, yun ang ating major axis. Samantala, yun namang segment na nakatayo ay yun ang i-consider natin na minor axis. Well, later on, malalaman nyo that the major axis is horizontal if the greater denominator is in the x squared term, and it is vertical if it is in the y squared term. The intersection of the two axes is called the center of the ellipse. The center is the midpoint between the two foci and also the midpoint between the two vertices. In this case, where is that center? Eto, ang nakalagay lang natin ay O kasi this ellipse ay nakagraph centered at the origin. Kaya naman ang nakalagay ay O. And according to the definition or according to our characteristic, the center is the midpoint between the two foci. Kung ito yung ating focus 1 at ito yung ating focus 2, ang kanilang distances coming from the origin ay equal in measure. Kasi nga, the center is the midpoint between the two foci. And also, the midpoint between the two vertices. Nasa naman yung two vertices na yan? Itong endpoint na to is considered as one of the vertex, samantalang ito, o one of the vertices I mean, at itong kanibilang endpoint is another vertex. So, yung dalawang yan, yung endpoints na yan, yan yung ating vertices. Dahil may dalawang focus, may dalawa tayong vertex. Kaya naman, the ellipse intersects the major axis in 2 points called the vertices of the ellipse. These vertices are the endpoints of the major axis. A segment passing through a focus of the ellipse that is perpendicular to the major axis is called a lattice rectum. Nasa naman itong lattice rectum? Well, as usual, same with the parabola. Alam natin na ang lattice rectum dapat ay nagpapass through dun sa given focus. So dito, sa ellipse na to, ayun, meron tayong 2 lattice rectum na kung saan 2 segments na nagpass through dun sa ating focus 1 and focus 2. A line outside the ellipse that is parallel to the minor axis and has less than or the same distance from a vertex as the focus is the directrix. Since there are 2 foci, there are also 2 directrices. Saan naman matatagpuan or makikita yung ating tinatawag na directrix? Kung ito sa ating horizontal na graph, andito dapat sa labas yung ating directrices. Okay, isa sa kaliwa at isa sa kanan. Kasi it should be parallel to the minor axis. In this case, alam natin na itong segment na to, siya ang ating minor axis. Okay? Kaya naman, yung ating directrices ay parallel dito. Now, if it is graphed in vertically, nasaan ang directrices natin? Isa sa taas at isa sa baba. Siyempre pa, parallel pa rin sila dito sa ating minor axis na sinasabi. When we say minor axis, siya yung pinaka maikli na segment compared dun sa isa na mahaba, which of course our major axis. And to give us a complete characteristics of an ellipse with center at origin 0, 0, tingnan natin itong table na to, na kung saan there's a given ellipse with foci on the x-axis and the given ellipse with foci on the y-axis. As you can see, dalawang equations ang ibinigay. One is x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1, while the other is x squared over b squared plus y squared over a squared equals 1. Having these two equations, see to it na ang value ng A is greater than B. And after knowing the values of A and B, it is important to look for the value of C. Ang gagamitin naman nating formula ay C equal to the square root of A squared minus B squared. Once na ma-identify yung values ng A, B, and C, you can actually get the rest of the characteristics of an ellipse. Makukuha nyo na yung vertices na kung saan dun sa ating first pattern, coordinates are what? Plus minus A, 0. Samantalang sa kabila ay 0 plus minus A. Para naman sa foci, first equation, ang ating coordinates ay plus minus C, 0. At dun sa kabila naman ay 0 plus minus C. For the major axis, ang ating length ay 2A. At syempre pa, ang coordinates ng endpoints dun sa unang equation ay plus minus A, 0. Samantalang sa pangalawa, the coordinate of the endpoints ay 0 plus minus A. For the minor axis, the length should be 2B. One is located on the y-axis while the other is on the x-axis. Given endpoints, dapat doon sa first equation ay 0 plus minus b at doon sa pangalawa naman ay plus minus b, 0. For the directrices, ang ating magiging equations ay x equals plus minus a squared over c para dun sa ellipse with foci on the x-axis at para naman sa ellipse with foci on the y-axis is y equals plus minus a squared over c. Well, for the coordinates of the endpoints of lattice rectum, we have negative c plus minus b squared over a and c plus minus b squared over a. For the other, we have plus minus b squared over a, negative c, and plus minus b squared over a, c. And the permissible values under ellipse with foci on the x-axis, x is between or equal to negative a and positive a, and y is between or equal to negative b and positive b. For the ellipse with foci on the y-axis, the permissible values are x is between or equal to negative b and b, while y is between or equal to negative a and a. And take note that the focal axis always contains the foci, vertices, and the center. When we say focal axis, ito yung tinatawag nating major axis, kung saan magpapass through dun sa foci, tapos center, at magtatapos sa endpoints of vertices. Find the coordinates of the foci and vertices, the endpoints of the major axis, minor axis, and the lattice rectum for each ellipse, whose center is at 0, 0. Draw the ellipse, its foci, and directrices. Given x squared over 25 plus y squared over 16 equals 1. At first, let us identify the value of a, b, and c. Well, in this case, sabi nga natin, a should be greater than b. Kung titingnan natin ang given equation, we have the denominators 25 and 16. As we knew, 25 is greater than 16. Tama? So, lumalabas na itong 25 ang ating a squared. And since a squared is equal to 25, sa makatuwid, ang a natin is 5. Okay? While the other, 16, is our b squared. And since b squared is equal to 16, lumalabas, b is equal to 4. Again, take note that a should be greater than b. As you can see, 5 is greater than 4. Now, look for c. Paano nga natin kukunin ang c? It is from the square root of a squared minus b squared. Ibig sabihin, it's from 25 minus 16. And the square root of 25 minus 16 is equivalent to the square root of 9, which of course, equivalent to 3. At dahil meron na tayong values ng A, B, and C, pwede na natin kunin yung iba't ibang characteristics nitong ating ellipse. Well, sabi natin, ang center natin is at 0, 0. Given na yon. Tapos, ano ngayon? Isulat natin, center, 0, 0. And then our vertices, what's the vertices? We have plus, minus. By the way, anong pattern ang ating titingnan? Dahil nauna yung a squared or 25 is under x squared term, ibig sabihin, ang ating susundan ay yung ellipse with foci on the x-axis. Okay? At dahil doon, paano natin malalaman ang kanyang vertices? Susundan natin itong plus minus a 0. And then, a while ago, we found out na ang value ng a ay 5. Kaya naman, we have plus minus 5, 0. At ito ang ating vertices. Para sa coordinates of foci, we have plus minus c, 0. Then, since c is 3, we have plus minus 3, 0. Okay? And then the endpoints of our major axis, plus minus a, 0. So when we say major axis, so MA, what are the coordinates? We have plus minus a, that is plus minus 5, and then 0. For the minor axis, we have these endpoints, 0, plus minus b. So minor axis, small m, then axis, coordinates, we have 0, and then plus minus b, which of course equivalent to 4. And for the directrices, okay, directrices, we have a squared over c. So our directrices, the directrices should be x equals plus minus a squared. Our a squared is 25 over c. So that is 25 over 3. And then, lattice rectum endpoints, dito na lang natin isulat sa taas. Lattice rectum endpoints, negative c, that is negative 3. And then, plus minus what? Plus minus b squared, which is 16. Okay? And then, over a, that is 5. So, ito yung isa sa ating endpoints. And then, the other is positive 3, which is c, and then plus minus b squared, that is 16 over 5. So with this, pwede na tayo mag-create ng ating graph. Okay? Paano? Tingnan natin. Again, make a Cartesian plane. So gawa tayo ng Cartesian plane na kung saan meron tayong x and y axis. Siyempre pa, ang center sa gitna. Kasi sabi natin, ang ating center dito ay origin. Okay, so ito ngayon ang center. Now, kasunod, vertices, plus minus 5, 0. From the origin, move tayo ng 5 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So ito yung ating vertex, 1. Okay? And then, from the origin, move tayo ng 5 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, this will be our next vertex. So, i-consider natin siya as vertex 2. About focus or foci, we have plus minus 3, 0. From the origin, move ka ng 3 units to the right. This will be our focus 1. And then, from the origin, move tayo ng 3 to the left para ito ang maging focus 2. And for the coordinates of the major axis, we have plus minus 5, 0. And for the coordinates of the minor axis, we have 0 plus minus 4. From the origin, taas ka ng 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. At saka bumaba ka ng 4 from the origin. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this segment, ito yung y-axis, along y-axis, siya naman yung ating minor axis. Okay? And then, for the endpoints of the lattice rectum, since we have negative 3 plus minus 16 over 5, the value of 16 over 5 in decimal is about 3.2. Meaning, ipa-plot natin itong endpoints ng lattice rectum. So, 1 is negative 3. Ibig sabihin, kaliwa, from the origin, kaliwa ka ng 3. And then, since we have 3.2, taas ka ng 3.2 units. Estimate. Okay? Estimate natin yung 3.2 units. And then, from the focus, okay, 2, baba ka ng 3.2 units. So, 1, 2, 3.2 units. Then, make a line or segment. For this will serve as your lattice rectum dun sa focus 2. At syempre pa, lattice rectum sa focus 1. From focus 1, taas ka ng 3.2 units. And then, baba ka rin ng 3.2 units. Then, connect the points para sa lattice rectum na magpa-pass through dun sa iyong focus 1. And then, with this, draw your ellipse. So, from the vertex, draw a smooth curve na kung saan ito na dapat nag-pass through doon sa endpoints ng iyong vertices. And then, dun sa endpoints ng ating lattice rectum, syempre pa, yan. So, ito halos ang ating ellipse. And for the directrix, x equals plus minus 25 over 3. If you are going to divide 25 by 3, it's approximately 8.3. Kaya naman, from the origin, ibig sabihin, kakanan ka ng 8.3 units. So, kung itong vertex ay 5, dagdagan nyo lang 6, 7, 8, approximately 0.3 units. Draw a line or a segment. Okay? Pwedeng gawing broken line. Yung iba ginagawang broken line ang directrix. And from the origin, mag-move ka ng 8.3 units to the left. So 5, we have your 6, 7, and then 8, approximately another directrix. Etong portion na ito. Okay? At syempre pa, kompleto na ang ating ellipse. Example number 2. 4x squared plus 36y squared minus 144 equals 0. Ang una mong gagawin is transpose this negative 144 papunta dito sa kabilang side. Okay? Magiging na siyang 4x squared plus 36y squared equals 144. Now, if you look at our equations pattern, dapat ay equal to 1. Kaya naman, from your equation, 4x squared plus 36y squared equals 144, i-divide mo siya by 144. So, lahat by 144. Bakit i-divide by 144? Simply because 144 divided by 144 is 1. And to simplify 36 over 144, it is simply 1 over 4. So 36y squared over 144 will become what? Y squared over 4. While the other 4x squared over 144 is simply x squared over 36. At ito ngayon ang ating new equation. As you can see, from general form, ginawa nating standard form. At dahil dito, we can now again identify a squared and b squared. Since a is greater than b, dapat yung a squared ang mas malaki. At nagkataon, 36 is bigger than 4. Lumalabas na ang ating a squared ay 36 and our b squared is 4. Since a squared is 36, pwede nating sabihin na ang a ay 6, while b squared is 4, ibig sabihin b is 2. And again, compute natin yung c, which of course equivalent to what? The difference between a squared and b squared, the square root of the difference between a squared and b squared. So that is 36 minus 4, which of course equivalent to the square root of 32. And square root of 32 in simplest form is about 4 square root of 2. Bakit naging 4 square root of 2? Factors of 32 na kung saan ay perfect square ang isa are 16 and 2. And square root of 16 is 4, then copy 2 dun sa loob. Kaya naman, square root of 32 is equivalent to 4 square root of 2. And what is the value of 4 square root of 2 kapag i-convert into decimal? So approximately 4 square root of 2 is 5.7. So mamaya, pagpa-plot natin, ito ang gagamitin nating value, 5.7. Okay? So sulat lang natin ng maayos. So 5.7 ang approximate value of C. Okay? Again, this equation is equivalent to x squared over 36 plus y squared over 4 equals 1. And then we found out that a is equivalent to 6, b is equivalent to 2, and c is 5.7. Now, alin ngayon ang ating magiging pattern? Since 36 is bigger than 4, our a squared is under x squared term. Ibig sabihin, ito uling ellipse with foci on the x-axis ang ating magiging pattern. So, isa-isahin ulit natin ang ating characteristics of the ellipse. So, our center in this case, of course, is 0, 0, origin. And then, for the vertices, ang ating vertices ay plus minus a 0. So, we have plus minus 6, 0. And then, foci, plus minus c, 0. So, we have here plus minus 5.7 and then 0. The major axis, endpoints, we have plus minus a, which of course plus minus 6 and then 0. For the coordinates of the minor axis, we have 0, then plus minus b, of course plus minus 2. Okay? And then directrices, D is x equals plus minus a squared, that is 36, okay, over 5.7, or 36 divided by 4 square root of 2. Mamaya, alamin natin kung ano ba yung 36 divided by 4 square root of 2. Or, ngayon na. So, 36 divided by 4 square root of 2 is about 6.4. Ano? So, approximately, this is 6.4 5.4. So that is 36 divided by 4 square root of 2. Okay? Now, lastly, for the endpoints of our lattice rectum, what are the coordinates? We have negative c, so that is negative 5.7, and then plus minus b squared, that is 4 over c, which is 5.7. So 4 divided by 5.7, or 4 divided by 4 square root of 2 is approximately 0.7. Okay? So this is approximately 0.7. And the other, we have what? 5.7 and then plus minus 4 over 5.7 or 0.7. With this, i-draw natin yung ating graph. Paano? Gawa ulit tayo ng Cartesian plane, x-axis, and then y-axis. Of course, our center is at the origin. Okay? The endpoints of our vertices, plus minus 6, and then 0. So, from the origin, kanan tayo ng isa, and then what? Dalawa. Okay? Tatlo, apat, lima, anim. So, kaliwa. Ito ngayon yung ating vertex 1. And then, kaliwa tayo ng 6 from the origin. Isa, dalawa, tatlo, apat, lima, 6. And this will be our vertex 2. By the way, pwede magkabaliktad. Ano? Kung gusto niyo yung vertex 2 ay maging vertex 1, okay lang. At yung vertex 1 ay maging vertex 2. Okay. Next, for the focus or foci, we have plus minus 5.70. Ibig sabihin, from the origin, kanan kayo ng 5.7 units. So, estimate natin or approximate natin 5.7 closer to our vertex 1, kung positive 5.7. And this will serve as our focus 1. So, halos malapit dun sa ating, okay, this will serve as your focus 1. And then closer to vertex 2, since we have negative 5.70 coordinate, so ito ngayon yung ating focus 2. Okay? For the major axis, length of our major axis, that is what? 2a. Eh di syempre pa, yung kahabaan, o yung ating, since the endpoints of the vertices is at plus minus 60 points, ano? Eh di ito. Na kung saan, sabi nga natin, ang major axis dapat nagpa-pass through dun sa focus or sa foci and center of the ellipse. Ano? At ang endpoints dapat ay nadun sa ating vertices. And for the minor axis coordinates, we have 0, plus, minus 2. Meaning, from the origin, taas ka ng dalawa. Okay? Tapos, baba ka ng dalawa. And this will be your minor axis. Next, the endpoints of the lattice rectum from our focus number 2. Pwede tayong tumaas ng 0.7 unit. Okay? At pwede rin naman tayo, syempre yung kapartner niya ay negative 0.7 unit. Then make a segment passing through your focus 2 at yon ang ating lattice rectum. Doon sa kabila, focus 1, taas ka ng 0.7 unit at bumaba ka ng 0.7 unit from your focus. Then draw a segment. Yun ang another lattice rectum. And with this, sabi nga natin, from one of the vertices, you can draw your ellipse. Okay? So, smooth curve lang. At yun ang ating magiging ellipse. See to it na lahat ay na-touch ng ating drawing. yung endpoints of the vertices, and then yung endpoints ng ating minor axis, at yung endpoints ng ating mga lattice rectum. So, yan. Ano na lang ang kulang natin? Of course, our directrices. And since the equation of our directrices is what? X equals plus minus 6.4. So, from our vertex point 60, approximately, bago tayo mag-7, i-estimate na lang natin yung ating directrix. So, again, pwedeng solid line, pwede rin namang broken line. But for sure, pwede nyo nang gamitin itong broken line for your directrices. At syempre pa, dyan ulit natatapos ang graph ng ating ellipse and its characteristics. Okay? Ayos. Our next task is to write the equation of the ellipse with center at the origin that satisfies with the given conditions. So ngayon naman, ibibigay natin ang equation of the ellipse given ang characteristics of the ellipse. Example, the foci have coordinates 0, 4 and 0, negative 4 and a vertex at 0, negative 5. So dahil ang center ay origin, again, ang pattern natin ay ellipse with foci on the x-axis or ellipse with foci on the y-axis. Paano natin ito ma-identify? From the given, foci have coordinates 0, 4 and 0, negative 4. So kung isusulat natin yung f, we have 0 and then plus minus 4. If you look at our pattern, alin kaya yung may coordinates na 0 plus minus a certain value? Diba ito yung foci? Okay? Sa unang column, sa unang pattern, we have these coordinates plus minus c, 0. Samantala, doon sa pangalawang pattern is 0 plus minus c. Obvious that we can apply this pattern 0 plus minus c. Ibig sabihin, if the given foci ay 0 plus minus 4, lumalabas na ang ating value for c ay what? 4. Tama? Kasi our pattern is from 0 plus minus c. Okay? Next, a vertex at 0, negative 5. So with the given vertex, 0, negative 5. So actually, 0, negative 5 here ay one of the vertices. Kasi yung isa ay 0, 5. And again, if you look at your pattern, 0 o vertices I mean, so meron tayong 0 plus minus a. Well, in this case, ano naman ang ating natukyan? Ang value ng a sa makatuwid ay 5. So meron ka ng c, meron ka ng a. Ano na lang ang nawawala? Siyempre pa, ang nawawala ay yung value ng b. Paano natin kukunin ang value of b? If c is equivalent to the square root of a squared minus b squared, we can tell that c squared here is now equal to a squared minus b squared. Replace c using 4, kaya ito ay magiging 4 squared, and a using 5, palitan natin. So we have here 5 squared, and then minus b squared. Okay? ID 4 squared is 16, while 5 squared is 25, then minus b squared. Transpose negative b squared dun sa kabilang side. So magiging siyang b squared, and then transpose 16 papunta dito sa kabilang side. Kaya naman, b squared is equal to 25 minus 16. And b squared obviously is what? 9. So if b squared is 9, b therefore is 3. Okay? At dahil yung ellipse with foci On the y-axis, ang ating tinignan regarding foci and vertices, ang pattern natin na equation na gagamitin ay ito. X squared, okay, over b squared plus y squared over a squared equals 1. Gawin natin, copy x squared, and then we found out that b squared is 9, so isulat natin, plus y squared, copy, and then a squared, so happen that a is 5, lumalabas, a squared is 25, and then equal to 1. So ito ngayon, ang ating sagot dun sa hinahanap nating equation. So, this is it. This time, tingnan naman natin yung characteristics of an ellipse with center at HK. Siyempre pa, meron pa rin tayong two equations na pwedeng maging pattern. One is an ellipse with foci on a line parallel to the x-axis, and the other is an ellipse with foci on a line parallel to the y-axis. Kanina, it is simply x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1. But this time, it is x minus h quantity squared over a squared, all over a squared, plus y minus k quantity squared all over b squared equals 1. But still, you can get the value of c through the square root of a squared minus b squared, and considering that the value of a is greater than the value of b. Our next equation is x minus h quantity squared all over b squared plus y minus k quantity squared all over a squared equals 1. So, yun. Halos kagaya rin lang kanina. At kung mapapansin nyo, parang iti-translate lang natin ito from the origin to a certain point, hk. Now, for the vertices, at first we have the coordinates h plus minus a, then k, and the other is h and then k plus minus a. For the coordinates of the foci, we have h plus minus c, k, and then the other is h, k plus minus c. To get the coordinates or endpoints of the major axis, we have h plus minus a, then k, and the other is h, then k plus minus a. And as you can see, halos katulad siya nung coordinates of the vertices. Kasi sabi nga natin, kung ano yung ating vertices, yung haba nun, that would serve as our major axis. And for the co-vertices na sinasabi nung iba, pero tayo, kinoconsider natin siya as minor axis, the coordinates of the endpoints are what? H, and then k plus minus b, while the other is h plus minus b and then k. And lastly, for the coordinates or endpoints of a lattice rectum, we have h minus c and then k plus minus b squared over a, and h plus c, then k plus minus b squared over a. Sa kabila, we have h plus minus b squared over a, then k minus c, and h plus minus b squared over a, k plus c. With these characteristics, with these patterns, then we can simply answer our problem regarding ellipse with center at HK. Kung paano, tingnan natin sa mga susunod slides. Our task is to write the equation of the ellipse in standard form that satisfies the given conditions. Given problem, the center is at negative 2, 4. A focus is at 3, 4, and the vertex is at 4, 4. Well, klaro na ang ibinigay dito ay center at negative 2, 4. Since our center is at point HK, lumalabas na ang value ng h ay negative 2. And the value of k is positive 4. Tama? Dahil the center is at negative 2, 4. Now, regarding the focus, since the focus point given ay point 3, 4, okay? Alin kaya dito sa dalawa nating foci ang possible na maging nating pattern. One is H plus minus C, K, while the other is H and then K plus minus C. If you look at K value, the value is 4. And if you look at the focus, the Y coordinate is also 4. Quite obvious that we can use this pattern, H plus minus C, K, for the foci. So, ibig sabihin, etong 4 na to is your K value. Now, to solve for the other variable here, since meron naman tayong H, we can use the pattern H plus minus C. K, sabi natin. Diba? And we found out na K is 4. Ano na lang ang problema natin dito? Itong H plus minus C. So happened that H is negative 2. Okay? If you are going to solve H plus C, okay, substitute H using negative 2, and then plus C, which you do not know, is equivalent to 3. If you transpose this number, negative 2, dun sa kabilang side, C therefore is equivalent to 3 plus 2, which of course, bibigyan tayo ng sagot na 5. So in this case, the value of C is 5. Okay? Next, a vertex is at 4, 4. So one of the vertices ay 4, 4. Again, if you look at this portion, this will be your K value. Kasi if you look at the vertices, ayun, meron lang ulit tayong K value alone. And then to get this one, 4, from the pattern H plus minus A, so we have H plus minus A, okay, ID, this will be equivalent to what? Dapat ito naman ay maging equivalent to 4. Since we have this H already, palitan natin, negative 2. And then for instance, plus A is equal to 4. Transpose negative 2 dun sa kabilang side. And A now is equivalent to 4 plus 2. Which of course, ang tamang sagot ay 6. Meron na tayong A value, meron na tayong C value. Ang nawawala na lang natin ay B. And again, this sa ating previous samples, we can solve B through this C squared is equal to what? A squared minus B squared. So replace C using 5 dahil yun ang nakuha natin. Kaya meron tayong 5 squared equals A value, which is 6, and then squared minus B squared. 5 squared is 25, while C squared is 36, then minus B squared. Transpose negative B squared dito sa kabilang side to get 36 minus 25. So what is 36 minus 25? Obviously, it is 11. And since meron na tayo nito, lumalabas na ang B therefore is simply what? Square root of 11. Okay? So meron na tayong B, meron na tayong A. So B, A, C, then the H and the K. Now, our problem ay write the equation of the ellipse. So tingnan natin ngayon. Pahiin lang natin itong certain portion para nang sa ganon ay magkaroon tayo ng space para maisulat yung equation dito sa problem na ito. Okay, so yan. Importante lang ang ating iwan. So meron na tayo nito. Okay, focus. Okay, and then HK. Okay. Dahil from the start, ang tinitingnan natin ay itong column na to, the ellipse with foci on a line parallel to the x-axis. Sundan lang natin itong equation na ito. Copy x and then minus h, so minus negative 2, quantity squared all over what? A squared. So our A is 6 and then squared plus y minus k, which is 4, quantity squared all over b. B squared, so according to this, is 11. Tama? Or, at first, sulat muna natin, square root of 11, okay, squared equals 1. And then, compute x minus negative 2 minus minus is positive. So, we have here x plus 2, and then quantity squared all over 6 squared, that is 36. And then plus y minus 4 is y minus 4. Quantity squared all over squared of square root of 11 is 11. And then equals 1. So this, of course, pahiin lang natin itong space na to para tayo ay magkaroon ng enough space. So lumalabas, eto ngayon yung ating hinahanap na equation. And by the way, going back dito sa problem na to, if you notice, dun sa pag-solve natin ng value for A and value for C, ang ginamit lang natin ay H plus A and H plus C. Hindi na natin ginawa yung H minus A and H minus C. Bakit? Kasi kung ipa-plot natin ito, let's say gawa tayo ng Cartesian plane, x-axis and then y-axis, the center is at point negative 2, 4. So from the origin, kaliwa tayo ng dalawa, and then taas tayo ng 4. This will serve as our center, okay? And then a focus is at point 3, 4. So coming from the origin, kanan tayo ng 3, 1, 2, 3, and then taas tayo ng 4. Of course, kapantay ng center ang ating focus point. And a vertex is at 4, 4. From the origin, 4 na kanan, kakanan tayo ng 4, and then taas tayo ng 4. And as you can see, ito ang ating vertex, ito ang ating focus, okay? So, ibig sabihin, nasa kanan ang vertex, nasa kaliwa ang focus. Ito ay, ang pattern natin ay horizontal, ang magiging graph ng ating ellipse. At dahil siya ay horizontal, ibig sabihin, itong portion na ito ay nasa kanang bahagi. At dahil siya ay nasa kanang bahagi, basically, we know na if you look at our x-axis, pag sinabing kanang bahagi, you are adding a number coming from a certain number. O kung ito ay coordinate, let's say mula sa kaliwa, pag ikaw ay nag-add, obvious na ikaw ay patungo sa kanan. And since the center is the midpoint of the two foci or focus, so lumalabas andito yung isang focus sa portion na to, sa part na to, and then the other vertex ay andito rin. Kaya naman, ang ginamit lang ng sir ay yung plus, yung sa H plus A, tapos saka yung H plus C. Dahil dito, sa portion na to, andito naman yung H minus A and H minus C. Our next problem, express each equation of the ellipse in standard form. Then give the coordinates of the center, vertex, the foci, and the endpoints of the lattice rectum. Given equation, 25x squared plus 16y squared minus 100x minus 32y minus 284 is equal to 0. Well, at first, katulad ng mga previous na ginawa natin sa ating naunang topic, kailangan nating pagdikitin yung parehong variable ang ginamit. In this case, pwede natin pagsamahin muna yung 25x squared and negative 100x. Kasi sila yung parehong x ang ginamit. So, consider natin ito as a single term or as a one group. And then the other plus 16y squared minus 32y y. Okay? It's one group equal to transpose negative 284. Dito, sa side na to, kaya magiging equal to 284. Okay? Now, if you look at this term, 25x squared, since you have this coefficient 25, factor it out. Ilalabas natin yung 25. At dahil inilabas natin yung 25, so 25x squared divided by 25 is x squared. And negative 100x divided by 25 here is negative 4x. And then, diretso na natin, plus blank. Why? Because we will make x squared minus 4x here a perfect square trinomial. So, lagyan lang natin ang plus blank. And then, para sa kasunod, since the leading coefficient is 16, okay, factor it out, 16. And then, matitira sa loob, 16y squared divided by 16 is y squared. And negative 32y divided by 16 is what? Negative 2y. And then, plus blank. Okay? Equals 284. Then, plus blank. Plus blank. Now, to make x squared minus 4x a perfect square trinomial, divide 4 by 2. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. Then copy minus square root of x squared is x. So put a quantity, then squared. Nagkataon, 2 squared is 4. Sulat dito. But since you have this leading coefficient, 25, yung pinactor out natin, 25 times 4 is 100. Kaya naman, ang ilalagay natin doon sa right side is 100. Okay? So dito, kopyahin natin yung 25. Next, plus, okay, 16, copy 16. And then, to get the last term of y squared minus 2y, para siya ay maging perfect square trinomial, i-divide natin yung negative 2 by 2, and that is negative 1. And square root of y squared is y. Lagyan natin ng parentheses, then squared, nagkataon, 1 squared is 1. But again, since meron kang 16 sa unahan, multiply mo doon sa 1. What is 16 times 1? Of course, the answer is 16. At yon ang ilalagay natin dito sa right side na blanco. 16. Okay? And to continue, 284 plus 100 is 384. And 384 plus 16 is exactly 400. Since our equation pattern ay equal lang sa 1, para masunod natin yon, divide our new equation by 400. So by 400 by 400. Now, simplify. 25 and 400 can be divided by 25. Magiging na itong x minus 2 quantity squared all over 16, while the other is y minus 1 quantity squared all over 25 equals 1. At syempre pa, mga bata, ito ngayon ang ating unknown equation. Okay? Ito yung equation of the ellipse in standard form. X minus 2 quantity squared all over 16 plus y minus 1 quantity squared all over 25 equals 1. From our equation na nakuha kanina, sabi natin, it is x minus 2 quantity squared all over 16, and then plus y minus 1 quantity squared all over 25 is equal to 1. If you look at the given denominators, 16 and 25, basically, 25, ito. ay bigger than 16. At dahil sabi natin kanina, A should be greater than B. Lumalabas, 25 dito ay A squared. At itong 16 ang B squared. And because of this, if A squared is equal to 25, okay, pwede nating sabihin that the value of A is 5. And if B squared is equal to 16, the value of B is 4. Ang tanong, ano ngayon ang value ng C? Okay, so ang C ay square root of A squared, that is 25, minus B squared, 16. So it is square root of 25 minus 16, that is 9. Well, the value of C then is 3. So eto ngayon ang ating values ng A, ng B, at saka ng C. Okay? So ilagay natin ang A. Ano ang A natin? 5. Ang B ay 4. At ang C ay 3. Now, with this equation, ano ngayon ang ating center? Ano ang coordinates ng ating center? H, so we have here x minus h. So lumalabas ang ating h in this situation or in this equation is 2. And then ano yung ating k value? So y minus k. Obvious na ang k natin dito ay ano? 1. So if h is 2 and k is 1, okay, tanggalin natin muna para meron tayong enough space. Nakuha na naman natin yung different values ng A, B, and C, at saka yung H and K, di ba? So our center coordinate ay ano? Or HK, so we have 2, 1. And then, ano naman yung ating vertex or vertices? So dahil ang ating sinundan na pattern ay pangalawa, tama? Then, sabi natin, to get the coordinates of the vertices, susundan natin itong H and then K plus minus A. So lagay nga natin, vertices is what? H and then K plus minus A. Isa-isahin natin, H is 2, and then K, what is K? 1, plus A, that is 5. Ibig sabihin, we have 2, 6. While the other is what? 2, and then 1 minus 5, and that is what? 2, negative 4. So the coordinates of our vertices then are what? 2, 6, and 2, negative 4. So ito ngayon ang coordinates ng ating vertices. Ayos? Now, about the coordinates of the foci, yun naman ang ating isosolve. So tanggalin natin ito. According to our table, dito sa ating pattern, so tingnan natin, ano ba yung susundan natin? We have foci, H, and then, comma, K plus minus C. So we have H, our H value is 2, and then K, 1, plus C, so plus 3, meaning we have this coordinate 2, 4. And then the other is H, that is 2. Then K, 1, minus C, 3. So we have 2, negative 2. The coordinates of the foci then are what? 2, 4, and 2, negative 2. Lastly, the endpoints of the lattice rectum. Pahiin lang ulit natin ito. Okay, tingnan natin ang pattern. We have this endpoint or endpoints h plus minus b squared. Okay, isa-isahin natin. We have h plus minus b squared over a. And then, comma, k minus c. H is 2, and then plus minus b squared, so that is 16 over 5, comma, and then k, 1, minus c, minus 3. Okay, convert 16 over 5 in decimal. So 16 divided by 5 is 3.2. So 16 over 5 here is 3.2. Therefore, 2 plus 3.2, we have 5.2. And 1 minus 3 is negative 2. So 1 of the coordinates. And then the other is 2 minus 3.2. So what is 2 minus 3.2? That is negative 1.2. Then comma, 1 minus 3 again is negative 2. Okay? Next, we have, instead of 1 minus 3, it is 1 plus 3. Okay, etong pattern na to, sabi doon, h plus minus b squared over a, and then k plus c. So this will become plus, plus. Therefore, meron na tayong 5.2, 1 plus 3 is 4, okay? And the other is what? Negative 1.2, okay? Comma, and then 4. So these are the coordinates of the lattice rectum. Okay? Ayos. Hanggang dito na lang muna ulit tayo. At syempre pa, maaari kayong mag-comment, mag-like, share, and subscribe nitong aking channel kung sa palagay ninyo ay natulungan kayo ng Sir. Once again, good day and thank you.